Maria walked down the busy streets of her neighborhood as the sun began to set. The sky was turning a soft orange color, and the air was cool, but not cold. It was the end of a long day. Maria had just finished her job at a small cafe nearby. She was tired but happy to be heading home to her family. The neighborhood around her was full of life. People were talking, laughing, and going about their day. But Maria noticed something different that evening. As she moved past a small corner store, she saw a police car parked at the side of the road. The car was still, but the bright red and blue lights on top were off. It looked like the officer inside was watching something closely. Maria felt a small wave of worry. In recent months, she had heard many stories from neighbors about police officers acting too harshly, especially toward young men in the area. These stories made her feel uneasy, but she told herself to stay calm and keep walking. A few steps ahead, Maria saw Jamal. He was a young man from the neighborhood, about her age and someone she had known since childhood. Jamal was wearing a simple jacket and carrying a small bag. He was heading toward the store to buy some snacks before going home. Jamal smiled as he noticed Maria and waved.
Oh, Maria smiled
back, feeling comforted by this small, friendly gesture. The streets were busy but peaceful. Children were playing near the park, and some elders were sitting on benches, chatting softly. Streetlights were beginning to turn on, casting a warm yellow glow on the sidewalks. Yet Maria could feel an invisible tension in the air, like something might happen soon. She thought about the news she had heard about how sometimes police officers use their power unfairly. It made her heart beat faster. Suddenly, Maria heard a voice raised in anger. She looked toward the direction of the police car and saw Officer Kelly stepping out of the vehicle. Officer Kelly was a woman in her early 40s, wearing a dark uniform with a badge shining on her chest. She walked quickly toward Jamal, who was standing near the store entrance. Maria stopped and watched closely. Something did not feel right, officer. Kelly's face was stern, her eyes were sharp, and her body language showed she was in control. She spoke loudly, but Maria could not hear the exact words from where she was. Jamal, however, looked surprised and a little scared. He held his hands up slightly, trying to explain something. Maria's heart sank. She had seen this kind of scene before, not with Jamal, but with other young men who were stopped without reason. The people around the store began to notice. Some stopped what they were doing and looked toward the officer and Jamal. A few whispered quietly among themselves. Maria felt a mix of fear and anger. Fear because she did not know what would happen next, and anger because she believed no one should be treated unfairly. Maria took a slow step forward, unsure if she should get involved. Her voice was calm, but firm as she said, "Excuse me, officer. What is happening here?" Officer Kelly turned her head sharply toward Maria. The look in her eyes was cold and hard. Instead of answering, she raised her hand and flashed her badge. "This is a police matter," she said sharply. "You should stay out of it." Maria felt a chill run through her body. She realized the officer was using her badge not just as a symbol of her job, but as a way to stop people from asking questions. Maria did not want to cause trouble, but she also could not ignore what she was seeing. Jamal's hands were still raised in a peaceful way. He was trying to explain that he had done nothing wrong. The tension grew. Officer Kelly's voice became louder and more forceful. Jamal stayed calm, but looked tired and worried. Maria could feel the eyes of the people around them. Some were silent, some looked angry, and others looked scared. It was clear that many had seen this kind of power used to silence and control. Maria wanted to help, but she was not sure how. She looked around for support and saw a few neighbors gathering nearby. Some had their phones out, ready to record. Maria took a deep breath, feeling her own courage grow. She knew that sometimes just standing up and paying attention could make a difference. The sun had almost set now, and the streetlights glowed softly. The quiet voices of the community mixed with the louder sounds of the city at night. Maria thought about her own family, about Jamal's future, and about how important it was for everyone to be treated fairly. She felt a spark inside her hope that change could happen if people spoke out and stood together. The moment felt heavy and important. Maria knew this was more than just a simple encounter on the street. It was a moment that could affect many lives. As she watched, she promised herself she would do what she could to help. Not just for Jamal, but for everyone in the neighborhood who wanted to live without fear and with respect. Slowly, Maria stepped closer to the officer and Jamal. Her voice was steady. "Please, tell us what is going on." Then said, "I stopped this young man because I had reason to believe he was involved in something illegal." Maria looked at Jamal, who shook his head slowly. He looked at Maria with trust, hoping someone would listen. Maria's heart ached. She knew this story was not new. Many young men had faced similar accusations without proof, simply because of the color of their skin or where they lived. She looked at Officer Kelly again, hoping she would act fairly. But the officer's face stayed hard. The evening grew darker. Maria could hear distant sounds of cars and people moving on the sidewalks. The neighborhood was alive, but this moment felt like a small battle for justice. Maria wished she could do more, but she also knew that standing here and asking questions, it was a start. As the police car waited, Maria thought about what might happen next. She hoped that reason and kindness would win. For now, she stayed calm and watched closely, ready to help if she could. The story of this night was just beginning, and Maria was ready to be a part of it. Maria felt her heart beating faster as she stood near Jamal and Officer Kelly. The tension between them was clear to everyone watching. Officer Kelly's voice was sharp and loud, making it clear she was in charge. She spoke quickly, asking Jamal questions that seemed to come from nowhere. "Where are you going? What do you have in your bag? Show me your ID," she demanded. Jamal stayed calm. He answered politely, "I'm just going to the store to buy some snacks. This is my bag with my things. Here's my ID." He slowly reached into his jacket and took out his identification card. He showed it to Officer Kelly without any hesitation. Maria noticed that Jamal was not afraid, but he looked tired and frustrated. He wanted to be treated with respect. Officer Kelly did not seem satisfied. Her tone became louder. She said, "I don't trust you. You look suspicious. You must come with me to the station." Jamal shook his head gently. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Please let me go," he said calmly. But Officer Kelly did not listen. She moved closer to him, using her body to block his way. Maria felt a deep sense of unfairness. She could see clearly that Jamal was being treated differently because of his skin color. It hurt her to watch. She decided to speak up again. "Officer, please tell us why you think Jamal did something wrong. Is there any proof?" she asked. Officer Kelly turned to Maria quickly. Her eyes were cold. She raised her voice and said, "I am the police here. You don't need to know everything. Stay out of this." And she flashed her badge again. The badge gleamed in the streetlight like a sign of power. She used it as a way to stop Maria from asking questions or helping Jamal. Maria felt a mix of anger and sadness. She knew that the badge was supposed to represent safety and trust, but right now it seemed to be a tool to scare people and keep control. She also saw how some people around started to step back, afraid to get involved. But Maria did not want to be silent. She took a deep breath and spoke louder. "I'm not leaving. This is a public place, and I have the right to know what is happening. Jamal has done nothing wrong." Officer Kelly's face tightened.
She
Looked around, noticing that more neighbors had come closer. Some were holding their phones, ready to record. Jamal looked at Maria gratefully. He said softly, "Thank you for standing with me. I was worried no one would." Maria smiled gently. She felt stronger because she was not alone. The power of the community was growing. Suddenly, Officer Kelly shouted, "Enough! I am warning you all. Back away, or you will be arrested for interfering with a police officer." Her voice was loud and full of authority. The crowd froze for a moment. Some people looked scared. Others looked angry. Maria saw a young man take a step forward but then stop. Maria thought carefully. She knew that arguing more might make things worse, but she also believed that justice needed to be spoken for. She pulled out her phone and started to record everything happening. The camera caught Officer Kelly's aggressive behavior and Jamal's calm replies. The recording was important because it could show the truth later. Maria had seen before how videos had helped stop bad behavior by those in power. The phone light glowed softly in the darkening street as Maria held it steady. Officer Kelly noticed the phone and turned sharply. "Put that away. You're not allowed to record police officers on duty," she shouted. But Maria kept the camera on. "I spoke firmly. I am allowed to record. This is public property. Everyone has the right to see what is happening." The neighbors watching started to murmur in agreement. Some said, "She's right, and this needs to be stopped." The mood changed from fear to support. More people took out their phones and began to record as well. Officer Kelly looked around and saw she was losing control. Her voice dropped slightly, but her tone stayed sharp. "You don't understand the law," she said. "I'm doing my job, and you are making it harder." Maria replied gently, "Doing your job means being fair and respectful. Right now, this does not look fair." The officer's expression showed frustration, but no answer. Jamal took a small step forward. His voice was calm, but clear. "I'm just a person trying to live my life. I don't want trouble. Please let me go." Officer Kelly stared at him for a long moment. Then she took a deep breath and said, "Fine, but don't think this is over." The officer motioned for Jamal to leave. He nodded and walked away slowly, but without fear. The neighbors clapped softly, showing their relief and support. Maria lowered her phone but kept it ready. She knew this was only the beginning. The officer's badge had been flashed like a shield, but Maria had seen past it. She had seen the power used to scare people and keep them quiet. But now, with the recording and the witnesses, the truth would come out. The crowd began to disperse, but Maria stayed a little longer. She talked to some neighbors about what had happened and why it was important to stand up when things seemed wrong. People shared stories of their own experiences, and the feeling of community grew stronger. As Maria walked home that night, she thought about Jamal and all the young people like him. She thought about the badge and the power it held. She hoped that one day the badge would mean only safety and fairness, not fear and silence. She also knew that standing up took courage. It was not easy to face someone who had power over others. But Maria felt proud that she had spoken out. She believed that one small moment could help bring change. The streets were quiet now, with only the soft sounds of the city at night. Maria felt tired but hopeful. She was ready to keep watching, to keep standing, and to keep sharing the truth. Because in the end, justice belongs to everyone, and no one's voice should be silenced. Maria felt a new kind of energy in the air after the police officer left. The neighbors who had gathered around were no longer quiet. Many of them were talking to each other, sharing what they had seen and felt. Some took out their phones too. Watch the video Maria had recorded. The screen showed the officer shouting, the badge flashing, and Jamal standing calmly. It was a clear picture of what had happened. Maria knew this video was important. It was more than just a recording. It was a way to show the truth. She decided to share the video on social media. She wrote a short message explaining what happened and asked people to watch and share. Within a few hours, many people had seen the video. Comments poured in from all over the city. People were upset about the officer's behavior, but proud of Maria and Jamal for standing up. Some of the comments came from local news reporters who wanted to learn more. They asked Maria if she would be willing to talk to them about the incident. Maria agreed, feeling nervous but knowing this was a chance to make a bigger difference. She wanted the story to be heard by people who could help. Meanwhile, Jamal was thankful for the support. Before this incident, he often felt alone when police stopped him without reason. Now, he saw that the community cared. He spoke quietly to Maria, saying, "I'm glad you were there. I was afraid no one would help me." Maria smiled and said, "No one should face this alone." The video caught the attention of a local community group that worked to improve relationships between police and citizens. They invited Maria and Jamal to join a meeting where people talked about problems like this and how to find solutions. Maria was happy to join. She wanted to be part of the change. At the meeting, many people shared their stories. Some spoke about being stopped by police without good reasons. Others talked about feeling scared or angry when they saw officers use their power unfairly. The group listened carefully and agreed that things needed to improve. The community group decided to contact the police department to ask for an investigation into Officer Kelly's actions. They wanted to make sure she was held responsible if she had acted wrongly. They also asked for better training for officers to understand how to treat people with respect and fairness. Back at home, Maria felt a mix of hope and worry. She knew change would not happen quickly, but she believed that speaking up was the first step. She talked to her family about what had happened and why it was important to stand for justice. Her children listened carefully and promised to always treat others kindly, no matter what. The police department soon announced that they were opening an internal investigation. Officer Kelly was asked to stay away from her duties while the investigation took place. This news gave the community some relief, but they wanted to make sure the process was fair and open. Maria and Jamal were asked to provide their statements and share the video as evidence. They agreed, knowing this was part of the path toward fairness. The officers investigating promised to be fair and look carefully at all the facts. As the days went by, more people came forward with their own stories about Officer Kelly. Some said she had acted roughly before and used her badge to stop others from speaking. These stories added to the pressure on the police department to act quickly and fairly. Local news stations began to report on the story. They showed Maria's video and told the story of how one woman and one young man helped bring light to an important problem. Many viewers sent messages of support to Maria and Jamal. The story became a symbol of the fight for respect and fairness in the Farness. In the neighborhood, Maria felt proud, but also tired. Speaking up had taken courage, and the attention was sometimes overwhelming. She made sure to take time for herself and her family. She knew that to keep helping, she needed to stay strong. The community meetings continued. More neighbors joined, and the group worked on ideas to improve trust between police and citizens. They planned workshops, invited police officers to talk with residents, and shared information about rights and safety. Jamal became a voice in the community too. He spoke at meetings and shared his story to help others understand what it felt like to be unfairly treated. His calm and honest words touched many hearts. Maria realized that the power of people coming together was stronger than any badge or uniform. When neighbors support each other and stand up for what is right, real change can happen. The story was far from over, but hope was growing. Maria believed that one day soon, the neighborhood would be a place where everyone felt safe and respected, where police officers and citizens worked together to build a better future. For now, Maria stayed watchful, ready to help whenever needed. She knew that truth and courage were powerful tools, and she was ready to use them to protect her community and the people she loved. The police department's decision to open an investigation into Officer Kelly's actions brought a new wave of attention to the neighborhood. Maria felt a mix of relief and caution. She knew that just opening an investigation was not enough to fix the deep problems that had built up over time. Still, it was an important step. She was determined to stay involved and make sure the process was fair. The investigators reached out to Maria and Jamal to gather their statements. They wanted to understand everything from their point of view. Maria met with the officers in a quiet room at the police station. She told them clearly what she had seen, how Officer Kelly had spoken to Jamal, and how the badge was used to stop people from asking questions. She showed them the video she had recorded, which captured the whole encounter. Jamal also gave his account. He spoke calmly about his experience and how he felt when he was stopped without any real reason. He described how scary it was to be confronted by an officer who seemed to judge him before knowing anything. The investigators listened carefully and asked thoughtful questions. Maria was glad they took her seriously. The investigation took several weeks. During this time, Officer Kelly was not working on the streets. She was asked to stay away from her usual duties until the matter was resolved. Rumors began to spread in the neighborhood. Some people hoped for justice, while others were unsure what would happen. Maria kept attending community meetings. She found strength in sharing ideas and hopes with her neighbors. The meetings were filled with open and honest conversations. People talked about what it meant to live in a place where trust between police and community was broken. They also shared hopes for a future where respect and fairness would be the norm. The police department announced that they were also planning new training programs for officers. These programs would teach about fairness, respecting people's rights, and understanding how bias can affect decisions. Maria saw this as a hopeful sign. Change would not come overnight, but education was a start. Meanwhile, Maria began to hear from other people who had experienced similar encounters with Officer Kelly. Some told her stories of being stopped without clear reasons or treated harshly. These stories added weight to the investigation. Maria realized that the problem was not only about one night, but a pattern that needed to be addressed. One day, the police department held a public meeting to discuss the investigation and the future plans for community relations. Maria and Jamal attended, along with many others. Police leaders spoke about the importance of trust and said they were committed to making improvements. At the meeting, Maria spoke up. She told the crowd about her experience and why it mattered. Her voice was strong but kind. She said, "We all want to feel safe. We want officers who protect us and treat us fairly. It is not enough to just have rules. We need respect and understanding." The room filled with applause. Jamal also shared his story. He spoke about how being treated unfairly made him feel small and worried. He said, "I want to live without fear when I walk down the street. I want to be seen as a person, not a problem." His words touched many hearts. The police chief thanked them both and promised to keep working on better ways to serve the community. He said that trust had to be earned, not demanded. In the weeks that followed, the investigation was completed. The police department announced that Officer Kelly would face disciplinary action. She was required to attend extra training and review her behavior. The department made it clear that using power to intimidate or discriminate would not be accepted. Community saw this as a victory, but also a reminder that there was still work to do. Maria and her neighbors kept pushing for more transparency and fairness. They wanted to be part of the conversation that shaped the future. Maria thought about how much had changed since that evening when she first saw Officer Kelly confronting Jamal. What had started as a simple walk home had grown into a movement for respect and justice. It was a reminder that even small acts of courage could make a big difference. She also knew that change was a journey, not a destination. There would be challenges ahead, but with the support of her community, she felt hopeful. Maria looked forward to the days when everyone in her neighborhood could live without fear and with dignity, when badges would represent protection, not power trips. And she knew that standing together, speaking out and sharing stories was the way forward. Maria sat quietly in her living room one evening, thinking about everything that had happened. The night she saw Officer Kelly stop Jamal had changed her life and the whole neighborhood. What had started as a small act of courage had grown into something much bigger. It was a story about standing up for fairness, respect, and hope. Maria remembered the fear she had felt at first, the fear of speaking out against someone with power. It's the fear that her voice would not matter. But she also remembered the strength she found inside herself and in the support of the people around her. That strength had helped bring attention to a problem many had tried to ignore. The community was different now. People talked more openly. They shared their stories and listened to each other. Meetings were full of ideas about how to make the neighborhood safer and fairer for everyone. Maria had become a quiet leader, helping to organize these gatherings and making sure every voice was heard. The police department had changed too. Officer Kelly was no longer on the streets. The officers were learning about fairness and respect. The department promised to do better and to listen more to the community they served. It was not perfect, but it was a start. Maria often thought about Jamal. She knew his life had been touched by that night just as much as hers. Jamal had become more confident, speaking at meetings and helping others understand what it felt like to face unfair treatment. Together, they showed the neighborhood that change was possible when people stood up for each other. Sometimes Maria still felt tired from all the work. Standing up for what is right is not always easy, but she also felt proud of herself, proud of Jamal, and proud of the community that refused to stay silent. One day, a young girl approached Maria during a neighborhood event. The girl said softly, "Thank you for helping us. Because of you, I feel safer walking home." Maria smiled warmly and said, "We all have to help each other. That is how we make a better world." The badge that Officer Kelly had flashed that night no longer seemed like a symbol of fear. Instead, Maria thought about the true meaning of a badge: service, protection, and honor. She hoped that one day, every officer would carry that meaning in their heart. Maria's story was a reminder that no matter how small one person might feel, their actions can inspire many. When people come together to demand fairness and respect, they create a powerful force for good. The neighborhood was still healing, and the journey continued. But Maria believed deeply that with courage, kindness, and unity, change would keep growing. She looked out her window at the quiet street, feeling hope shine softly in the night. The future was still being written, and Maria was ready to keep writing her part.